Typos are everywhere. You do them, I do them, it's common. However, it's an entirely different kettle of fish when a big company does them. Along with typos and other kinds of mistakes, here's the top 10 biggest video game box art errors we've seen. Simple typos and spelling errors in the back cover descriptions of video games are strangely common enough that we won't devote time to each one. They've shown up all across generations and consoles, from the beautiful environments you could explore in The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, to the challenges described in the promotional copies of Asura's Wrath, to Drive Club's promise that you could race in hundreds of players. Let's not think about that last one too hard. In 2000, Empire Interactive released a Lemmings-inspired puzzle game called Sheep, about aliens trying to guide sheep back to their home planet. The premise is that the sheep are aliens meant to watch humanity, but life on Earth made them forget their true nature. Sheep embraced its absurdity and included a special warning sign on the back, which read, "Health warning. This game contains 100% pure artificial stupidity." Or at least, that is what it was supposed to say. Instead, it promised stupidity, while the missing Y floated mysteriously near the center of the sign. What sort of printing mistake gets a single letter out of place? Whatever it was, it happened to more than just sheep, such as Final Fantasy VII. Certain copies of Final Fantasy VII describe the game on the back cover as Squaresoft's multi-million-dollar masterpiece. Except, like with Sheep's Stupidit, one of the letters is out of place. The I in masterpiece floats just above the word in between the E and the R, leaving a conspicuous space where it should have been. Like all PlayStation 2 games, the original Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell lists how much memory it takes up on the back of the box. If you checked to see if you had enough space to play it, however, you might have been quite alarmed. Splinter Cell mistakenly lists its size as 493 megabytes, which doesn't sound too bad by today's standards, except the PlayStation 2 memory cards only have an 8 megabyte capacity. Since you didn't need to somehow use over 60 memory cards in order to play, and at the time of its launch some players contacted the company to double check, it's safe to say that this was a mistake. Now that we've looked at back cover typos, printing errors, and an inexplicable memory requirement, let's look at some spelling mistakes that take it to the next level. After all, you'd think you'd catch if you misspelled the title of your own game. Seven Samurai 20XX is a PlayStation 2 game based on the 1954 movie Seven Samurai. Unlike the film, which has a historical setting, Seven Samurai 20XX adapted it to a futuristic setting in the year 20XX. 20XX is a fairly common placeholder date used for futuristic settings, and it placed the game somewhere in the near future. Its box art, however, didn't think that was quite futuristic enough. While the front and back are fine, the spine called it 7 Samurai 200XX instead. The Gundam franchise has been around for a long time, since 1979 in fact, and has seen dozens of video game adaptations across all genres and systems, including a series of fighting games developed by Bandai and Natsume. Gundam Battle Assault 2 came out for the PlayStation in 2002, and early copies of the game included an unfortunate typo. Since the Gundam franchise was huge, you might expect there to be no doubts about its spelling. Unfortunately, spelling mistakes can occur and go unnoticed, even for massive, long-standing franchises. Early copies of this game called it Gundam on the spine, instead of Gundam. Most of the box art mistakes we've looked at so far come from older games. But don't be fooled into thinking misspelled game titles are the thing of the past. When Resident Evil Revelations came out in 2012 for the Nintendo 3DS, the first run had Resident Evil Revelations written on the spine. Although it was too late to correct the error before the game went to retail, Capcom offered replacement covers to any players unlucky, or perhaps lucky, enough to receive the misspelled copy. As one of the most notable misspellings in recent years, the Resident Evil Revelations cases received a fair amount of attention in the media. Capcom has earned itself several entries on this list, to the point where some fans wonder if they're doing it intentionally. After all, they once credited themselves as Capcom in an official trailer. The next box art error we'd like to look at is another one from Capcom, and this one goes up a level from misspelling the game's title. After all, those are still only typos, and they only appear on the spine. Imagine if you listed the wrong console on the game's box. When Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition came out for the Xbox 360, some boxes were labelled Xbox at the top instead of Xbox 360. Capcom was quick to assure fans that the discs inside were really for the Xbox 360 and not for the original Xbox, and promised special new cover art to make up for it. The majority of players probably wouldn't have assumed Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition was released for the original Xbox, but it could have certainly caused some confusion for people out shopping for the Xbox 360 version. One of the biggest box art errors showed up not that long ago, near the start of August, when Galgun Double Piece was released for the PlayStation 4 and Vita. Galgun is a rail shooter where you fire pheromones at girls to subdue them with pleasure, and it's filled to the brim with fan service. As such, it received an M rating. The front box art is correct for both versions. The back of the Vita box, however, was mistakenly labelled E. That's right, Galgun Double Piece rated E for sexual content. The ESRB wasn't pleased with this error, but since Galgun was only sold online and wouldn't appear on store shelves, it wasn't recalled. You can still find copies of the game with the misprinted box art online. Before we move on to a box art error even worse than labelling an M-rated game E, after all, the correct rating was still on the front of the box and in retailers' online descriptions, we'd like to look at one honourable mention. For this list, we tried to stick to games where the error occurred on all copies or a significant percentage, such as the first run. It's not uncommon for one or two of the copies to have special errors. There are even rare incidents of copies with the wrong game on the discs. Rare mistakes like that aren't worth entries in a list. On the other hand, sometimes the mistakes are so strange, so obvious, we have to wonder how no one caught them in time. That is the case for our honourable mention. A PlayStation copy of Metal Gear Solid with blank cover art. Blank. No artwork, no title, nothing but the Konami logo in the corner. How did that happen? And how in the world did it make it through? Capcom returns once again for our final selection, with the Wii release of Okami. At first glance, the box art looks perfectly fine. There aren't any typos, the rating is correct, the title is spelled correctly, and the artwork is the regular Okami art. Right? Wrong. While it is indeed Okami's artwork, there's something funny near Amaterasu's head. What is it? An IGN watermark. It seems the image used for Okami's box art was lifted from IGN's site, and no one noticed before the cases were made and shipped. As with Resident Evil, Capcom made new versions of the cover art available to players who requested them. Still, it raises questions. Why did they take art from IGN? Once they did, why didn't they look it over carefully? How did no one catch the watermark in time? Anyone can make a typo or encounter a printing error. A surprising number of people can misspell the name of their own game, and strange mistakes happen all the time. But when you wind up with a website's watermark on your game's cover, that's in another league entirely. That is why we consider the Wii version of Okami with IGN's watermark on it to be the top video game box art error we've seen so far. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this week's list, and if you did, leave a like. And if you want to see more top 10s now, click here for my top 10 worst gaming companions you wish you could kill, or here for the top 10 rarest Pokemon cards. And if you want to see more in the future, subscribe.